The next presentation is from the Pacifica Mamas collective, one that is very close to my heart. The Pacifica Mamas and Papas are a collective of respected Pacific heritage artists and cultural leaders brought together by a shared passion for the arts and culture of their Pacific homelands. So we're looking forward to Jarcinda's and Tura's presentation today.
Mei te rangi ki te inua, mei te inua ki te moana, ko māua te ia te Pacifica Mamas, te tūororo atu nei. Tūro ki ngā iwi o Waitakere, tūro ki te tangata whenua, tūro ki te iti tangata o Aotearoa, tūro ki te iti tangata o te moana nui o Kiwa, tūro ki te tangata kātoto o te ao nei, I e koko.
Kia ora kia ora ana tātou kātoto, ko Jarcinda tōku ingoa, alongside my colleague and fellow Pacifica Mama in training, so you can refer to us as aunties. We are both zooming in from Tāmaki Makaurau, Aotearoa. So firstly, acknowledge and honour tangata whenua. We acknowledge mana whenua. We also want to thank the event organisers, the symposium organisers, CCRI, and especially to Valia for the warm invitation to share story this morning with everyone. So with that said as well, we give thanks for those that are participating, our fellow presenters, and also for the people of Te Moana Nui a Kiwa that are here. So our presentation, our story that we will share this morning is one of Moanaroa, the Pacifica Mamas. Now, due to COVID-19, like everyone else, I guess, we pre-recorded our story. So with that said, we share with you, as I said, the story of Moanaroa, the Pacifica Mamas. Kia manuia.
Mei raro mai awai ki, tere taku I tupuna, mei raro mai awai ki. E ngā mana, e ngā reo, e ngā rauranga tirama, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā rā tātou katoa. Tālofa lava, māloili lei, nisa mula vinaka, whakaalofa lahi atu, halo ala keta, Kamna Maori, Moyoran, Yaorana, Aloha, whakatalofa atu, talohani, noa ia, kia ora ana tātou kātotoa I te aroha mātou te atua. Te moana nui o Kiwa. This is an ancestral name for that we call the Pacific Ocean. The Pacific Ocean that is the deepest and largest body of water on planet Earth. The Pacific Ocean that is so magnificent, you could take all of the world's continents and fit it nicely within its embrace. The Pacific Ocean so vast that it is the home of over 25,000 islands. And just 21 degrees south of the equator, nestled in the southern part of a group of islands called the Cook Islands, is my ancestral homeland. Tangike, tangike, tangike rawa, ko tuaratini tōku ingoa. I hail from the grandfather of the Pacific, a small island that is called Mangaya. It is 18 million years old and is steeped in oral history and ancient stories. I'm the project manager for Moanaroa, the Pacifica Arts Centre, home of the Pacifica Mamas, a collective that I met over 20 years ago as a young woman looking for more knowledge around myself and my cultural practices.
Ko tā ki tumu te waka, ko tumu te varovaro te ipukaria, e te moana nui o Kiwa, kia orana. Kia orana, I am Jarcinda Stowers-Ama. I am the director of the Pacifica Arts Centre, Moanaroa, and also a lifelong Pacifica Mama in training. I was born here in Aotearoa, but my bloodlines connect me across the world to the small island nations of the Cook Islands, Rarotonga, to Samoa, to Ireland, and to Scotland. Kia ora ana. In the late 1980s, a group of women, Pacific women, all recent migrants to Aotearoa, formed a group in West Auckland. The initial group of women hailed from across the Moana, from island nations including the Cook Islands, Niue, Samoa, Tonga, Tokelau, and Tuvalu. They were each knowledge holders in their own right, artists, practitioners of the rich arts and cultural practices, rituals, protocols of their island homelands. What brought the women together was their shared passion of keeping their arts and culture alive in their newfound homeland, for themselves, but more importantly, for generations to come. The story that we share is the story of the Pacifica Mamas, a story of migration. It is a story of identity, heritage, well-being, the physical well-being, mental, cultural, and of course, spiritual well-being. We share the story of these women who have played a pivotal role in developing and passing on Pacific heritage arts and cultural practices here in Aotearoa.
Tumu te varo taku I pukaria, ki te moana nui a kiwa, taki tumu te waka. A pe'e is actually the way you introduce yourself. Me tā akarua ki tore a iwa, o ki mai a taki tumu I reira. It's always a strong statement to actually open up who you are. Tangi ia, vai ranga noa ku parekura, ko pā, ko kainuku. Uri ake ki a koe e te muri motia. And that's what pe'e is about. It's making the connection to the people. Turo ki taki tumu. Ya I mātou umane, ya I mātou umane. The mamas come here to learn from each other. They share a lot of the bigger picture around the Pacific, you know, who we are. Our art is always our passion, our strength. It's what makes us who we are. The ultimate goal is actually to provide the best to those who will come to the center, to provide the best of who Pacific is all about. Being able to demonstrate an honest integrity of where you come from, maybe from the island of Tuvalu, from Samoa, all that is part of the delivery service we have down there. And we're very proud of it, and we need actually to say, this is our ultimate goal. We've got to provide the people out there, or the children that comes here on a daily basis, the best of the Pacific.
The initial group was small in numbers, but big in heart. They would meet on a regular basis in different homes across West Auckland. They also became regulars at community festivals and events, attracting the attention and earning the respect of the local community. This led to an invitation by the Corbin family, a family who were one of the first winemakers and largest winemakers in Aotearoa's history, for the Mamas to establish a home base on their former West Auckland vineyard, Corbin's. The establishment of a permanent home base in the early 90s brought with it a new wave of Pacific migrants, all looking for fellowship, all looking for connection. By far the biggest group to find their home at the centre hailed from one of the Moanas, one of the Pacific Ocean's smallest island nations, Tuvalu.
My name is Teuke Malanga. I'm from a little island called Vaitupu in Tuvalu group. I'm one of the first mama in the Pacifica Mamas group. I think the star is all over the Pacifica, because in the olden days, that's the only way the Pacifica people can travel to other islands. I think that's the star will bring me here. That's my belief. Yeah, I love weaving because you love to see what you make with your hands. So like when my grandchildren come, they always love it. Oh, Ma, what's this one? How do you make this one? Oh, I want to learn. So that the kids in nowadays, they really poke their nose on whatever they see. So that's why I said, I think to myself, oh, I think the weave is the basic thing. I think this is my call from God, to be with the Pacifica Mama, to share my talents. We've been to the gallery, Auckland Gallery, we've been to the Auckland Museum to workshop there, travel to Hastings, New Plymouth, with the Pacifica Mama. So it's good. Otherwise, I never been to those places. So I've been all over New Zealand because of the Pacifica Mama. Thank you, Pacifica Mamas.
The Mamas' reach and connection grew rapidly, both locally and internationally. They became regular exhibitors within the New Zealand arts landscape. They also built a strong program of activities that connected with both young and old, Pacific and non-Pacific. With their newfound fame, the Mamas' membership continued to grow, along with opportunities that provided some economic gains. It is usually at this time that history tells us collectives and groups can start to fray and fracture. But despite their popular and extra busy schedules, it was at this time that their success was key due to their strong sense of identity and heritage. They drew on the values and teachings of their respective ancestors.
My name is Soyeon Pulefale Tatu, and I came from Niue Island. I'm very proud to be a Niuean because I can speak Niuean and I know where I come from. I am a Niuean. I'm very proud to be a Niuean. I'm a person that I can't leave my hand keep still. I like to keep moving. I remember my first flower I made, it wasn't a nice one, it was all crooked. Because when you do a first one, and that's where you learn your mistake. I say, yeah, and you got twist and turn till you get it right. Now our flowers is complete. I like about the Pacifica Mama, it's like a day together.
How was the trip? Very good. Very good.
Yeah, it's a get-together and a friendship of other mothers from the other Pacific. I think it's important to keep up our culture from the Pacific. So we remember we are the Pacific, because otherwise, if you're here, you just belongs to everybody. But if you join the Pacifica Mamas, then you know where you are. Your roots back home. That's why I like about it.
My name is Sefuiva. Siau mau, saumale ula, pule mangafa, mika saifoloi. I love my matai name. The matai should be a strong voice. To be good to your family. I grew up at the village of Lausuali'i, Luatuanu, at Upolu, Western Samoa. I know how to weave, and when we came here and started the Mamas, and then I weave a lot. It gives me a lot of opportunity, and I like weaving all the time, anything. The Mamas group did a lot of work for the community, especially the school. We want to deliver the message to the school kids to learn how to wear, to learn how to love, to learn how to listen. Listen story about Sina and Tuna. In the island of Hawaii, we want to give out the talent, the things we got to them to keep the cultures alive.
The strong knowledge and connection to their respective cultural roots have been vital in the work of the Pacifica Mamas. Honouring their tupuna through the programs and activities they provide, the Pacifica Mamas have ensured they manage their own physical, cultural and spiritual well-being, as well as the well-being of the people they connect to through their work. One of the Mamas' key focus has been connecting with those with limited access or opportunity to engage in the arts. An example of this is their work with Pacific inmates at Spring Hill Prison.
These people in Spring Hill, prison, they missed out a lot. The boys that I deal with, especially with the Pacific area, they have actually lost the contact with their own families. They're not fortunate enough to have that cuddle and that connection, true love, sharing that love with their own family. I actually think the best reward I could get out of this is I am able to make the connection for them. I'm able to share those things that they didn't have the opportunity to have. And this is the wonderful time or the best time for them to actually learn who they are. And hopefully this will help them actually make the changes to their life. Maybe they can actually reintegrate again into the community with a very strong understanding who they are and be a better person and maybe a leader. So yes, I played that part, in understanding they do need it. And, somebody have to go and do these things, and I love it.
For almost 4 decades, the Mamas have played a leadership role in their community. They have shared their arts and culture, setting the standard and raising the roof on what's possible. They've dreamed big, and through hard work, turned these dreams into reality. For the Mamas, the arts, their culture, have been a gift of service to the community, to their people, and to the land they now call home. Their achievements and accolades have been many, with highlights including the Pacifica Arts Centre, Moanaroa, their home base, a home base that attracts upwards of 42,000 visitors and program participants per year. Pacifica Experience, their school education program, a program that connects with up to 7,000 students each and every year. Woven, a program close to their heart, based on Pacific arts and reintegration for Pacific prison inmates. This is a program the Mamas have been delivering for just over 10 years. Festivals have also played a really key role in the Mamas' success, with them creating their own opportunities for themselves and for Pacific people. The Mamas have created flagship events, including Aotearoa's premium Pacific Heritage Arts event, the Creative New Zealand Pacific Heritage Arts Whono, and former West Auckland's Pacifica Living Arts Festival. International programming has also been big for the Mamas. They have jet-setted across the globe to deliver workshops, activities, programs, and attend conferences. We have seen them travel close to home, across the Pacific, across Europe, and to Asia, with a special focus on Indian storytelling. Exhibitions and residencies have also been key. They've built a really strong reputation for delivering high quality art exhibitions in galleries and spaces that include Te Papa, Auckland Museum, and even Auckland Art Gallery. They have also undertaken a number of artist residencies, and most recently at Government House Wellington by invitation of the Governor-General of New Zealand and Massey University. Another recent project is the A Project, very close to the Mama's heart. It shares the story of Tamaki Makaurau with the community through Pacific arts and culture. Today has really been about celebrating the 12 months of hard work, celebrating our community, celebrating Auckland and all the beauty that it holds. The kaupapa, or the main concept of the A, was really to bring to life the stories of Tamaki Makaurau, of the land, of the sea, and the people that call this place home. And the best way we thought that we could do this was by gifting the ultimate gift of love, the gift of rake, the gift of A, onto a building that's an icon. What was really important and key to the Pacifica Mamas is that we used recycled resources. So it is completely made out of recycled strapping that was collected from various factories and rubbish tips around Auckland. Birdwood Primary is local to our art centre where we're based out of West Auckland. It is a beautiful school, it's a beautiful community, and it was really important for us to involve the children to understand sustainability first of, and how they can be creative with little to no money. They were a beautiful example of a school that fully engaged in the process and were part of the storytelling and bringing the A to life, bringing rake to life. Everybody was invited to take part and add their skill, and it could be through weaving, it could be through storytelling, through music, through drums, through dance. So it really was a true community project. There was somewhat of a sense of relief from the mamas. To see their work up on the town hall was an emotional experience. And to see the children this morning also coming in and looking up with tears was really surprising for me. And more so tears of joy, because we've all been part of this for such a long time. And now it's time to have fun and enjoy it and share it with the rest of Auckland that come to see it. So this morning for us is about fun and about celebration.
Rake means to wrap you with the warmth of the Pacific. So Rake, no te moana nui o kiwa. We are the people of the deep blue sea. We bring you the wrap for yourself, to warm you up. The ultimate adornment, the ultimate gift of love.
Taku manunui, taku manurai, taku manu erere tai titi ki tonga ki tokerau. Oki mai, oki mai. Oki mai, oki mai. Ye koko.
Once again, on behalf of the Pacifica Mamas, we give thanks, me taki maata, for the opportunity to share story this morning. Me taki.
Thank you, Jarcinda and Sue, for this wonderful visual, rich presentation of the contribution the Pacific communities have been making to Aotearoa and how much richer Aotearoa is as a result. How such a small collective has brought so much to the communities. I'm always beyond words every time I hear the work of the mamas. And it's lovely to see Mama Teute still being there and well and contributing. How wonderful. Too, as I heard you doing all the greetings in the Pacific languages, the Pacific rose up and all these island nations came up and reminded me how many they are out there.
Yeah, so many. And, our region is the most linguistically diverse of the planet. Even though we only make up 1% of the world's population, we've got so many languages. So I could be there all day saying hello and thank you in all those ways and really not even get into a conversation. So,
and that would have been enough sometimes, just that, a reminder of that linguistic richness. And yeah, so thank you very much for your presentation. Any comments, any questions from our participants?
Not a question, but just a observation, having had experience with the Pacifica Mamas, both with the aunties, with Tu and with Jarcinda, just to acknowledge the amazing work that you do. My son actually came to the centre one year as part of his school experience, and just the fact that you're able to do that and help our younger Pacificans have those experiences when they don't have it necessarily readily. I just think it's amazing. And as we know, we stand on the shoulders of giants. So to have the elders and their experience and to share that is just such a blessing in this day. So I just wanted to acknowledge you, me taki maata, for the great work that you do.
Me taki, Sandra. And if I may just share a little bit about that story actually with your son. So Sandra's son came to the centre on a school trip, and he walked in and actually did the introduction on behalf of his school. He did a blessing, he did a closing, and at the end of the session, knowing his mother's connection to these women, he went round, kissed each of the mamas, as you do, thanked them all for the session, and then left. And I messaged Sandra and said, man, you have raised a strong young man, and I told her all about these things that he did, and she was like, my son, are you sure? And I said, different when mum's not with him. I said, there's something about, and we call it hashtag mama power, there's something about the mamas when you're in their presence that it brings that out in people. So it was a really beautiful moment. And the reason I wanted to share that is sometimes parents don't realize the skills that they've passed on, Sandra, what she's passed on to her son in terms of having him go along with filming and all these different things, and that actually he's been absorbing a lot of that. And despite the fact that he's born here in Aotearoa, when he came out to our centre, you know, some of the mamas had to ask him if he was born on the islands because, you know, the way that he held himself and the confidence that he brought with his culture was really emotional for them. So I just wanted to add that to that little piece of story that you shared, Sandra, because it's a moment the mamas talk about a lot, about this young man that came into the centre and really set the scene, because he was the oldest in the group too, and held that leadership role on that day. But thank you, always appreciate your support.
Great. So Henry, I think, and then Glenda, we'll take those two questions and we'll move to the next session. Henry.
Thank you so much for a wonderful video. I learned so much about that. Beautifully presented, beautifully made, really, really enjoyable. I was just wondering, how do you go about promoting the mamas, you know, to different generations?
In short, we're probably the worst PR people out. So it tends to be a lot of word of mouth. So
Yeah.
Our core mamas group is around 8 core mamas that meet weekly, that come to the centre, but our wider mama circle is huge and the community we connect into. So to be honest with you, it's normally word of mouth. Because we run a school program, it tends to be generational as well. So people that may have come to visit us in primary school still connect with us now that they're a parent with a child that comes to the centre. One thing I will say, which is quite difficult on our programs, is the centre that we have in West Auckland on the Corbin estate is small, and so we've outgrown it 10 times. So all of our programs are oversubscribed. There are really healthy waiting lists for all of our programs. So one thing about COVID and us having to digitize a lot of our programs was it enabled access to people that normally physically wouldn't be able to visit our centre. But in short, worst PR people out.
Yeah.
Word of mouth is the key. If you know the mamas, you know.
Yeah,
so,
that's really interesting in its own right. I could see this as like a model for different communities as well, but
yeah,
you know,
I mean, there are mamas groups. There's one that started in San Diego, so we did a trip up there, and I was flown up there and asked to sort of give a presentation on what we do and different things. But my approach to it was, let's have a cup of tea, let's see who's here. And it was interesting because they had studied us more, so they knew more than I did actually. Like they had all these facts and figures and they did up these grids, and I was like, oh wow, I just came with my ukulele and my pate, and you know, I was ready to kind of be a bit organic with the presentation. And so I walk in, I see all these figures and facts on the wall, and they keep asking me questions around, you know, how do we do it? But the thing was, they were already doing it. They were already meeting. They were already sharing stories. But there was no formal kind of, I suppose, they felt that it wasn't formal enough. And one of the things that I shared was the mamas have never considered themselves to kind of be a formal group in the sense that they just do it. They make it a priority to meet. If you can't make the Wednesday meeting, that's okay. We'll see you next Wednesday. If we don't see you 2 times in a row, we ring you to make sure you're okay, your family's okay. But as we've traveled around, we've found that this model, especially in India, that's where we've got a really strong connection to and where we've been working over the last few years. We've found this very similar model of mamas, around the world.
Yes.
beautiful, wonderful.
Glenda.
Yeah, I'll echo Henry's comment. I'm really impressed and amazed, and it's really a wonderful presentation and video, and congratulations to all your work and to the community and to, I think, sharing with everybody. But my question is, for the last 40 years, this is my first time to really know Pacifica Mamas. How do you sustain in the Pacific Center? Do you get funding from the government? Do you have your fundraising? How are those, say, the regional mamas supported in a way, like because they contribute a lot? So what are the benefits, the privileges that they also get from the Pacific Center?
So in terms of our financial sustainability and the benefits really to the mamas that are in the group, the mamas, when they first started, and I think a lot of people will be quite familiar with this, had a little notebook and had a little tin. So each week they would come in, and if they could put $2 into the tin, they would put $2 into the tin, and they had a very good note taker that would take down what the contribution was. And for them, they made it a priority that any time that they attended a festival or an event, that a contribution of that would cover the resources and costs, but that also a portion of it would be saved. So if we fast forward sort of 20 odd years where Tu and I come into the picture, now my mum, my actual mama is one of the founding members. So I would watch this, the way that they cared for their finances, you know, the way that they really put a priority on paying themselves, on paying their resources, and ensuring that they had money put away, because their big dream was to not rent a building, but to own a building. That was always their dream, that they wanted to own a space. So yeah, we fast forward 20 years, you know, Tu and I come into the picture, and those habits and that foundation that was formed really set us up for the way that we operate today, in terms of being really aware of what we do. So the way that we get our income is a combination. We get a really good income stream from the different workshops that we run. We also are an investment client with Creative New Zealand, who is the main arts funding body here in Aotearoa. That was massive for us because that has secured funding for us for 4-year periods at a time. So basically what that does is it pays for a lot of our programs, it pays for our resources, but more importantly, it pays our mamas. So gone are the days of, you know, people doing a whole lot of things, leaving events, doing workshops and being out of pocket. We really do prioritise acknowledging, honouring and valuing our mamas and our artists. So even when we move in spaces like museums and galleries, it can be quite surprising for me when I, for instance, give a quote to do something and people will come back and say, did the mamas charge? They don't come in for free. And I say, does the consultant that built the building, the architect, everybody else, do they charge? Because sometimes I think people get a little bit confused, especially when dealing with our artists and our elders around that whole gift of service. So in terms of finances, it's something that we're really proud of, and it's something that we've pushed with all the different artists and generations that come through our centre, is knowing the difference between knowing your worth and when you are producing work, ensuring that you get paid for it, because it's a very big problem in our community. So a really, you know, something that we're so proud of, all of our mamas in that core group are paid a full-time wage. So that is something that's very rare, and it gives them the creative flexibility to do what they want. So they worry about the creative, and my job and Tu's job is to worry about where those income streams come from, to worry about their tax returns and all that type of stuff. So I hope that helps to answer the question.
Yeah, there's so much we can learn from the mamas model. I would call it a wonderful model, right, to emulate.
Yeah, I mean, all of them are very on top of our finances. So they all view our financial reports that come up monthly. They all know our expenses. They all feed into what's happening. All of them know how to do their tax returns. We have an accountant assigned, which we have funded, that anyone connected to our centre can actually see for free to get advice around their taxes. And it's something that sometimes younger artists will come in and be surprised and say, do the mamas do their taxes? I'm like 8 years behind, and we say, absolutely. As soon as you start down this road in the arts world, it's something for us, we say, you need to know the basics. Don't close your eyes and hope that, you know, things will just happen. So in terms of looking after the business of art, that's something that's been embedded in both Tu and I from the mamas. So, you know, another point of difference, we own our building. So a lot of organisations that are in Auckland will lease land, you know, will have to rent, whereas people always say to us, why are you in such a small building? And I always say, because we own it. You know, that the mamas, our goal is to have a much bigger purpose-built centre, but they want to own it, and they want to own it on their own terms. So people have come to us, sponsors, you know, the Portage Licensing Trust, which is who sells our alcohol in our area, have offered to fund the building, and the mamas have said, no, we don't want your signage on the front. advertising alcohol. Sky City's come to us before, which is our big casino here in Auckland, saying that they will fund a wing. And the mamas have said, thank you, but just doesn't align with us. So the big thing for them too is doing it on their own terms and ensuring it aligns with their values. So if it means being in a smaller building and it takes us 20 years, for the mamas, that's okay. You know, they're like, at least we're not compromising anything.
Yeah, I will repeat what Glenda said. We need mamas to run the world. We are officially now running out of time, but what is the time in lieu of these wonderful conversations we are having? And I will take just one more question, perhaps from Yuki, and then we move to Zora. Yuki.
I'm sorry, this is not a question, but a comment. But with regards to the Pacific Mamas, we also have to remember that they also engage with other mamas from refugee and asylum-seeking backgrounds. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for making that comment, Yuki, because absolutely, that's a real priority for them. And, you know, recently we've been working with a lot of different mamas that have come from Afghanistan and different places. And the beauty is that connection of knowing the feeling of being in a new place. And that's something that the mamas can share with them. So yeah, very key to what the mamas do. Thank you for raising that.
And a great example of how migrants can enrich and help the hosting new country. Let's put it that way. Thank you so much to Pacifica Mamas. We wish you so well if you continue prospering and making such a wonderful contribution to Aotearoa and indeed the world.